Hey guys, it's Audra and welcome back to 365 Projects. Obviously, the thumbnail in the footage that you're going to see today is about 6 months ago, which is crazy. Back in September, I filmed my chemo story, and then for some reason it got lost in my computer somewhere, and I thought I lost the footage completely. And then last week, I found it. And rather than filming it again because it's old, I'm just going to use it and edit it. I have not looked at it yet. It's going to be a tough one because I know I filmed for like over 40 minutes and it's less than 20 minutes of content, but it's me in raw emotions breaking down about chemo and about how hard it was. And I didn't realize how hard it would be to talk about it until I sat down and filmed it. So you're going to see that footage today. And if you have any questions, let me know. I don't know how well it's going to be done because during that time I was still doing chemo, so I may have a little bit of chemo brain. And with the emotions mixed in, I make no guarantees. But as always, if you have any questions, please let me know down below or contact me in Messenger on Facebook, whatever works. And I'd be happy to answer your questions. Please remember that with all of these in my breast cancer story segments, these are my experiences with my type of breast cancer, with the treatment that my doctors decided what's best for me. This is not going to be what is best for everybody else. So anyways, this is just another part of my story, and I hope sharing with you what I've gone through, what I've experienced, kind of opens the eyes and understanding of what a 20-something-year-old with breast cancer goes through, how each treatment is different, and yeah. There's not really much else to say, so let's just get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm coming at you with my chemo story. I've already done the fertility and the diagnosis story, so those are going to be listed down below if you haven't got to check those out yet. And so the next step in the process would be chemotherapy. So I'm just kind of walking you through that journey and what it was like. I will try to keep it in check as much as possible. I do have my notes to help me out. I put off filming this video because it was just so hard writing everything down. I was crying the whole time I was writing this. So I'm going to try to keep my feelings in check on this, but I know it's also important to show you the vulnerability and just the emotions that go behind dealing with cancer. But in order to get through this video, I know I'm going to have to keep it under control. I also have my handy dandy cancer binder here to refer to, which is something I will probably share in my chemo bag video later on. So yeah, let's just get started with the whole story. So as I've said in a previous video, I had my portacath put in during the middle of my fertility preservation, which would be the middle of November. It connects the port to allow for injections to be made into it, and then there's a tubing that goes up your neck and down into your heart to pump out chemo drugs faster. And it just makes it for a much easier process and less painful. I'll talk about the scream cream later on. But it just makes it for easier instead of trying to locate your veins that are going to shrink during the chemo process and with a huge needle. So the port is definitely a lifesaver in multiple ways. But we had that done first. And then just to recap, I was diagnosed October 16th. I started fertility on November 2nd, and then chemotherapy on December 1st. And so there was some time in between that we were waiting to figure out markers. And I believe this doctor's appointment with my oncologist was 11/23, so that'd be November 23rd. And at that point, we still had not heard back about my last marker. And so the doctor had written down the options of whether or not it came back HER2 positive or HER2 negative and what it would look like. So it did come back as HER2 positive, which, I mean, good or bad, whatever. And so we knew which direction we were going to go with the chemotherapy treatment. I know October 16th to December 1st probably sounds like a long time when you're dealing with cancer, but they told me that that amount of time really wouldn't change the outcome of how treatment went and what the prognosis, I guess, was at the end of it, because your body is going to react the same to chemo no matter when you start. It wasn't that much amount of time to, I guess, wait in the long run for saving fertility and all that kind of stuff. other things we found out at that doctor's appointment on the 23rd of November was that it was non-metastatic. It was beyond relieving. I think I started crying right there because stage 4 is essentially metastatic breast cancer, and there is no cure for that. And so it was just a relief to hear that there would be a chance in the long run. Yeah, you know I'm sad. Brady came by my side because he could tell I was crying. But moving on. The HER2 came back positive, and so that kind of gave us the direction of where we were going to go with what kinds of chemo I would take. And I actually took 4 different kinds. And the short of it is what they call the THC plus Perjeta treatment, and which is Taxotere, Herceptin, Carboplatin, and Perjeta. So Taxotere is the breast cancer chemotherapy you hear about on TV and all the lawsuits of losing your hair permanently. The Herceptin was for the HER2 positive. Carboplatin is just another chemotherapy drug for many different kinds of cancer. And then Perjeta is a specific one for breast cancer, also for metastatic breast cancer. I think it's called adjuvant treatment when they give that to you, even though you don't have metastatic breast cancer. But it's kind of like in a precursor to prevent that from happening. So taking that one kind of tells you how serious my markers were, is because they were treating me like I did have metastatic breast cancer because the kind that I have is so serious. So then we figured out that I would start chemo December 1st, and so to kind of prep for that, I had really, really long hair, like down past my old boobs, I guess. And so I'll try to figure out how to put a picture up for those of you who didn't know me before this. But I had really long hair, and I knew I was going to lose it, and I didn't want it to go to waste. And so I decided to have it cut off and donate it before chemo started, and it would fall out. And because I knew I didn't want to wait for the fallout and the emotional toll that that would cause. And, you know, you see it on movies and stuff, and I just didn't want to have that moment. I had my sister-in-law cut it all off, and we donated it to children with hair loss, which I decided to use that one because the big thing is that they give their wigs to people who need them for free, or children that need them for free, and Locks of Love charges, so I don't use them anymore. But, yeah, so that day I cut my hair off, and I had like a little bob for about 4 days. Cutting it off is probably one of the hardest parts of the whole thing. I mean, it's just part of who you are, and especially when you have such thick hair like me, it becomes part of your personality, I guess. But I did read in one of the books that a friend gave me that 75% of women say that the hair loss is worse than a double mastectomy in terms of how you feel about yourself and your body image, which is huge. Like, you don't think that it would be that big of a deal, but to somebody going through it, it really is. You know, saying that it's just hair is just doesn't cover the whole gamut of the feelings behind losing it. The day that I had it all cut off, it was a rough day, obviously. It was emotional. That's probably the time that I cried the most in front of other people. But after I had my haircut, I think God knew that I needed a little pick-me-up because I went to Target and met up with my mom and my 2 nieces. And that day ended up being the first day that either of them had said my name, so it was River. And all of a sudden she said Audra, and obviously it turned it into the best day ever instead of the worst day ever. So I'm very thankful for that. So I had very short hair going into chemo. And that first day, it was a Thursday, I got dressed in my LuLaRoe clothes, and TC leggings and an Irma, and went to chemo comfy because I knew I'd be sitting there for 6 hours on end getting chemo. And then I took my chemo bag, which is something I will share with you later. And Dad and I got in, I think, his truck, and he drove. And so I knew I needed my dad there because I knew he'd be able to hold it together when I couldn't. There's some things you just need your daddy for. So that's why I asked him specifically if he could go, because I knew he could keep kind of his emotions in check a little better than some of my other family members, which is understandable with this situation. We got in the car and went to Wichita and got to the cancer center. And as soon as we got there, I went and asked for Scream Cream, which is something that a friend told me to check into. All it is a white paste that goes on your port, and after 30 minutes, it numbs it, so you can't feel this giant needle going into your port. I wouldn't do any treatment without it, just because it does its job, and so that would be my first tip, is when you get there, ask for Scream Cream. And then I also had to do blood work. They check your blood count so often. I think it's like once a week as you go through treatment, but especially right before you start, because you have to be at a certain number before they will hook you up. After the oncologist appointment, we went back into the waiting room and then headed to the cancer pod that I was in for the most part throughout treatment. And sitting down, there was a lot of instructions the first day. I think it may have taken like 45 minutes to get through all the instructions and for them to tell me what was going to happen, what to expect, what to expect after. And so it was nice having some time to talk through things before getting started, even though it was a 6-hour day after that point. But it was just good to know ahead of time what to expect. Then they went ahead and accessed my port, and that is when the candies Gin came in handy. The port is always flushed first, and it is a nasty substance that tastes kind of like a skunk or something. And so the ginger candies are great because it masks that taste. Now I don't use it as much because I use it too much during my heavy treatments for that and then upset stomach. So I don't like the taste of it anymore, but I just use cinnamon gum when I go in for maintenance chemo to kind of help out with that. The first thing that they started me on was Benadryl and steroids, as well as nausea medication. The nausea medication I think lasts for 10 days, which is the great help and makes the treatments a little bit more doable now than it was a long time ago. And the Benadryl is to kind of make sure that you don't have any allergic reactions to any of the medication. Another reason that it takes so long to sit there for 6 hours is that they do a slow drip in case you have a reaction. They can stop right away and reverse it before they have too much of it in your system. So the Benadryl was only for the first 2 times, and after that they knew I wasn't going to have any reactions to it, so I didn't have it any longer. So the first couple treatments I was a little more sleepy and slept more than I did the rest of the treatments. That first day, like I said, it was 6 hours. Dad and I played some board games. I took Sequence with me, and then I also slept once the Benadryl kicked in. And then we also got food from Artichoke's sandwich shop down the street. Anytime I had treatment, especially with the heavy doses, I often referred to having a headache and a heavy head. It just kind of feels like there's a weight in the back of your head as the stuff is going into your system. So sometimes I would ask for ibuprofen, just kind of depended. So you have all these bags that you're going through, and they beep when they're about done, or they beep when they need sped up. And then the nurses, who are amazing, switch them out for you. And then at the end, I got a Neulasta injector, which is like a little pod that's this big that is put into your stomach area or another fatty area. And it gives you a white cell blood boost, something like that, like 27 hours later, so you don't have to go back into the hospital to get that shot. It just does it automatically, and which is nice. But another side note of all of this, that Neulasta injector was, if before insurance, is $6,000 by itself, and I had 6 of those, so there's $36,000 right there. So you can understand cancer is obviously a business, and they make a ton of money off of this. For an entire round of all of my medications, for one big chemo round, before insurance would be $45,000. So as you can imagine, I'm extremely thankful for insurance, and it saved my life essentially, and I cannot imagine someone who does not have insurance going through this. I think our country could improve on cancer patient care because the cost of it is outrageous, and I honestly don't know that they'd ever give the cure out even if they found it, because it is a billion-dollar industry. But anyways, off my soapbox once again and moving on. So after that day, we went home, and I just kind of relaxed and hung out at their house. I had moved into my parents' house at that point, And I didn't feel too bad. I went to work the next day, and even that next evening, I went and met Kate DiCamillo, who is a children's book author, and I listened to her speak, which was great. Had a picture taken with her. I felt kind of crummy, but it really wasn't too bad at that point. While I was there, my Neulasta shot went off and injected. So like I said, 27 hours later, it makes this beep, 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 beep. So you know that it's getting ready to inject, and it takes 45 minutes to do that. So luckily, I think it was kind of noisy, so not many people noticed that the beeping was going on, but it happened. Following treatments, I would just have like a little pocket of nausea, and it wasn't too bad. I did have some medication that I took, but that was just kind of the nature of the beast. And then the first time, my skin broke out like crazy. I think it's just because you're putting toxins into your system, and so your skin completely freaks out, which is a normal reaction. And so after that, my skin dried out completely, and it really wasn't an issue anymore. But that first time, it was a bad deal. I had red bumps everywhere. So I think it was Saturday, I started to feel pretty crummy, and I made sure to keep a journal for each day and how I was feeling and what I noticed symptom-wise for my doctors, but mainly for myself, because chemo is a cycle. What you feel the first time, you'll feel in the second time, because the cycles are kind of the same. So I just kept track so I would know what to expect the next time that this would happen and to see how things changed. So 3 days later, on Sunday, I decided to shave my head completely, and I tried the wig on and had it, and I just didn't like the wig, so I just used head covers for the most part. That day I was feeling pretty crummy, so the emotions didn't get to me as much as the first time with just cutting it all off did. Then the next day was Monday, so this is day 4. My vision went out completely. It was bizarre. It was like completely blurry, and I went to work. I tried to go to work, and I went into the gym, and I went in there, and the sea of kids was just a blur, and it made me sick. So I went to the office, and luckily my boss was getting ready to go back to the district office, which is where I live in that area. So he took me home because I wasn't able to kick it like I thought I would be able to. And so it kind of, looking back at it, it's like, I'm not sure exactly how I thought I was okay and why I tried to drive with that vision, but I did. And so I went home and I just kind of slept the rest of the day. Tuesday, I tried to go to work again, and I worked half a day, and then my vision was still messed up, and so my mom came and picked me up that afternoon and took me home. And I think that's just one of the side effects of Herceptin, maybe. I'm not exactly sure which one it was, because my vision still gets blurry at the end of cycles a little bit, but not nearly as much as it did. And it only happened the first 2 times through the big cycles. And then after that, I didn't notice the blurriness, or it didn't happen as much because my body was getting used to the chemo. And so I just kept tracking the cycle, and so each cycle was 3 weeks before you started a new one. And the very last week, you kind of start feeling normal again, which tricks your body, of course, and then you take another chemo, and then boom, you feel like crud again. At the end of that cycle is when my hair started to fall out, of what was left of it, the itty bitty stubbles, but my hair never fell completely out. I looked like a minion because some grew and some didn't, and I was constantly having my sister-in-law shave it because it was just driving me absolutely crazy. And so she was a trooper, and I'm so thankful for her throughout this entire process, because she still now has to shave my neck. And then the second cycle started December 22nd, and it was kind of the same thing with the Benadryl and the sleepiness and the eyes and the crazy and all that kind of stuff. And it all just kind of started over again. Although I share all of these like side effects with you, I think that mine were not as strong as other people's, which I'm thankful for. But I think there's a couple reasons for that. One being is that I've always had extremely high pain tolerance. When I was a 4th grader, I broke my arm, and I cried because I thought my mom was upset with me, and not because it was broken. And it was broken completely in half. And then, just always had really strong pain tolerance, and so I think that helped out with this. And also the fact that I am younger, and so it just didn't hit me as strong, I think. I don't know. But I feel blessed that I wasn't run through the ringer like some people are. Going to these cancer centers and seeing other people going through this and having chemotherapy, you see a lot of people that are much worse off. And so I'm just grateful that it wasn't as hard on me that it is on some other people. This may be TMI for some people, but it's part of the process in terms of menopause. So the reason we did fertility preservation was because there was a chance that it would kill my ovaries and the functions of them. And so I had a normal period in December, didn't have another one until February, and with that it was really, really light, and then after that I didn't have another one. So after the second cycle and before the third cycle, I had an appointment with the breast specialist, and they were able to do a sonogram to kind of see how things were progressing. And she said that at that point the tumor appeared to be gone already, which was a great blessing, but we also didn't know whether or not it had been in my lymph nodes yet because you had to wait for surgery for that point. But it was great to hear that they thought it was working, and it was working so fast already, and I still had 4 treatments left. So that was a great glimmer of hope in the middle of the beginning, I guess. So while doing those 6 treatments over the course of 4 months, I had blood work done every week and then a heart echo every 6 weeks. Because of Herceptin, it does cause a potential for heart failure, and it's a very small chance, but they obviously want to keep an eye on you when you're going through heavy treatment because some of the other chemo drugs can do that as well. So every 6 weeks I had the heart echo done during the big treatments, and then now I just do it every 3 months because I'm still doing Herceptin. So as you're going through treatment, each one does kind of add up and accumulate on each other, and so I did all right, and I kept working. I only took off chemo days and worked all the rest. And then it wasn't until after cycle 4 I finally took my first and only day off of work because I just felt so fatigued. And I was thankful that I would have that opportunity to do that because I just needed a day's rest, and the next day I was ready to go. I know there are some people that are like, what, you worked during this whole time? Especially the people that I've met at the Cancer Treatment Center. Some of them take off work, but being a teacher, it wasn't really that much of a choice, but also for me, I didn't want to. I wanted to keep up a normal routine, and it helped me in terms of my mental state because I felt like if I were to take time off, I would just dwell on it, and that would not be good. In fact, there's studies that actually show that that hinders your prognosis in terms of if you don't have a good mental stability. And so I knew for me, I just needed to kind of pretend that life was going on as per usual, but I think it was all right. It wasn't until after the 4th treatment that food started tasting weird, and mostly that was just like fried food tastes awful, and sugar obviously tasted the best, but that's a double-edged sword because sugar actually drives cancer. But I mean, you just gotta do what you gotta do. I hate to say that, but it's true. So yeah, I went through the course of treatment, and in terms of hair and losing the rest of my hair, I did not lose my eyelashes until the 6th treatment was over, which was annoying. I had a clump fall out because I accidentally pulled them out with makeup wipes, which was devastating that night, but it wasn't until the 6th cycle was over that my eyelashes fell out, as well as part of my eyebrows. So that was so annoying. I was like, really? We made it this far and you just couldn't hold it together? But they are back thanks to Rodan Fields, and they're continuing to grow, which is exciting. So my last chemo treatment was March 17th, and I had to wait for 4 weeks before having my double mastectomy on April 11th. And during that time, I kept going with the Herceptin because I have to do that for 52 weeks total. I think I have like 4 or 5 left at this point. But I kept going even like right after surgery. I think it was like a week or 2 after surgery that I had another round of Herceptin, but that was just kind of the way it went. And yeah. So yeah, that's the end of my chemo story. I'm sure I forgot something because I still have chemo brain. And the fact that this took place over 4 months instead of just like the 1 week for diagnosis and then 1 month for fertility type thing. So if I think of anything else, I'll probably just create another video. If you have any questions or things you want me to cover, go ahead and just put that in the comment box down below, and I will get back to you on that. Next time I'll come back for more breast cancer stuff and talk about the double mastectomy and reconstruction. So hopefully you'll join me for that. If it's not already too much, I know it's kind of a scary process, but I'm just sharing all of this with you so it educates more people of what to expect or how to advocate for yourself. So thanks for watching, guys. I will see you next time.